G'day guys, Matt Brand here. Welcome to the 2022 Isuzu MU-X MU-X, as I call it. And the Isuzu MU-X is a bit like a Big Mac. Okay, put the Big Mac into frame now. Hold it up, but try not to spill it. You see, the outside looks good. The inside, can't be your finger there. The inside is surprisingly nice. Give me another bite. Give me another bite, bro. But you could swear that the price of these damn things keeps going up every year. It costs like $10 now. I can't afford that. It's a lot of money for a burger. I'm actually really excited for this review because I've reviewed the D-Max and the BT50, both of which are literally the same car under the skin, except of course this is an SUV, a SUV, as we call it around here. And this MU-X is a bit like an Aussie icon at the moment because it seems like every person and their dog has an MU-X, the previous generation MU-X. They were super duper popular. Hell, even my dad has a D-Max, a 2015 D-Max, which is, you know, again, the same kind of thing. All right, let's give it some sauce.
You want some Big Mac sauce?
I feel sick, genuinely sick. And this thing is a major improvement over the outgoing MU-X in every way possible. Now, the Isuzu MU-X competes with things like the Mitsubishi Pajero Sport, the Toyota Fortuner, the old Ford Everest, and the upcoming Ford Everest. Oh, and a special mention to the now dead Holden Trailblazer. Rest in peace. Today we're going to be doing an in-depth review of the new MU-X. We're going to talk about how it drives both on-road and off. We're going to take a look at the exterior and the interior because it's pretty damn nice. And of course, whether or not you should buy yourself an Isuzu MU-X. And if you are new around here, I would love it if you could go down there and hit the subscribe button and that notification bell so you can see every time I give cars the sauce. You're gonna be terrified in the car with me today, bro. Hold on to something. Pricing is where things get interesting here. You see, this is the top spec 4x4 LS-T, and it sells at just over 71,000 kangaroo points, which is really expensive and is about a $10,000 price increase over the last MU-X. However, Isuzu are offering the MU-X for a drive-away special price of just under 64,000 Australian dollars, which is a bit confusing. You see, you can pick up the LS-T two-wheel drive for more money, about 65,000 Australian dollars, or you can pick the 4x4 mid-spec one of the Isuzu MU-X, which is the grade below this, for around 65,000 Australian dollars. So essentially, you would be barking mad to not buy yourself an LS-T. And don't go expecting dealers to give you $10,000 off the other models because this is a head office back discount. This is not something that the dealerships are willingly supplying you. So yeah, interesting pricing there. I'm sure there's a method to the madness, and to be honest, when it was at $71,000, a bit of a hard sell, but when it's at $64,000 or just under, that's actually very reasonable. And as I said, there's clearly method to this madness because this thing has been selling like hotcakes. They've sold 900 of these in the last month alone. That's very good. So clearly price is not deterring people. So what do you get under the bonnet? Well, you get the legendary 4JJ3 3-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. It pumps out a pretty healthy 140 kilowatt of power and 450 newton meters of torque, both of which are not very impressive numbers. You'll find more in pretty much all of its competitors, but if we put our foot down and give it some sauce, yeah, you really do feel the lack of power. It's really not that quick. But it does feel like it has enough pulling power. It feels like you could just kind of keep going at the same steady pace forever. So that is quite impressive. And really the best thing about this engine is you can't really get more reliable engines than this one. This thing has proven its test of time, as they say, and really is very, very reliable. You could do many cross-country trips in this engine and feel very secure and safe. So yeah, I quite like it for that. Now, as I said, you can get this as a 2x4 or a 4x4. This is, of course, the 4x4, and it's really the one you'll get, as you'll see when we go off-roading in this thing. But most of the time, it is rear-wheel drive. Power is sent through a 6-speed Asian torque converter gearbox, and it is a very smooth gearbox. If we put this phallic shift knob and try and row through the gears ourselves, it does respond relatively quickly. And then when you're just driving around town, it is super smooth. And even though it's a 6-speed, which might feel a bit old nowadays, when you're in 6th gear at 100 kilometers an hour, the engine isn't making much noise at all. So it's actually very, very well tuned. And it delivers power decently well. As I said, you're not really going to be breaking any speed records. Unfortunately, this week we're in a different part of Victoria, so there's no saucy corner to go around, but I will be terrifying my passenger Jacob with some high speed, just tomfoolery. Do you remember this? Let's go over this dip.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay, let's see how this thing handles.
Oh.
Did you just bite your lip?
Yeah, a little bit, and not out of pleasure.
All right, let's give it some twisty sauce here. Do you know what? It handles surprisingly well.
Uphill is the same acceleration as in the flat.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, it's just very consistent. So, I mean, really the package on road is very nice. And we will come back to how this thing drives on road. But for now, I want to talk about how it looks. Okay, so here it is, the Isuzu MU-X in all of its glory. I actually really like the way that this thing looks. I love the headlights. It's got a really cool daytime running light. The LED lights themselves are super, super bright. And the turning signal indicator, unfortunately, is a halogen bulb. Why would they do that? Regardless, who cares? Because the front of it is absolutely stunning, I think. Got a bit of a schnoz to it. It's got a nice big grille. You can tell this is the top spec because it has matte grey here. The Isuzu badge proudly spelt out on the front. But yeah, there's lots of cuts into it. It kind of does look a bit, I don't know, Mazda-ish almost. You have these LED fog lights down here too. And yeah, I mean, from the front, I think it's a really good looking car. Come to the side and yeah, it looks like every other ute-based SUV out there. And what I mean by that is it's a giant long rectangle. Still though, you do get these really, really nice wheels. I love the way that these alloys look. They are 20-inch alloy wheels and you've got some pretty nice rubber around it too. Although they really are for highway driving more so than proper off-roading, and I reckon they would get pretty slippery when mud starts to get into them. I mean, it's a pretty decent looking car from the side, nothing spectacular. Come to the back, and again, really understated, I think. The tail lights are a very cool look. They're like smoked out, they've got like this 3D effect. It looks really cool at night. But yeah, you can see here, it is really just a giant rectangle, much like its competitors. And not too much going on back here, except for, you know, the Isuzu badge, MU-X badge, 3-litre turbo diesel. And of course, back here, you can see the full-size spare, which is actually a really nice thing to have, especially if you're planning to go to Outback Australia or anywhere where you really don't want to get stranded. And actually, while we're here, we might as well take a look at the boot. So let's open it up. Of course, it is a powered tailgate, and you can use the key as well to open it up. As you can see here, all 3 rows are up, and my camera is out here for scale, and there's a decent amount of space. Could probably fit 1 full-size suitcase, maybe 2 if you're lucky. Pull this down though, we get even more room back here. It's quite impressive. It is a flat load bay. You can also hide stuff under here as well. And then if we want to put down that row over there, well, we kind of have to go all the way around here and pull this, but then look how easy that is. Oh, it's a one-handed operation. Same thing for the other side as well. We literally just do that. You do get a pretty big drop off, which is not the greatest thing ever. It no longer continues to be a flat loading area. But at least if we come back here, you can see we have loads of room just to put really whatever we want back there. Of course, we press that button here and it all closes back down. So it's pretty practical too. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of the new Isuzu MU-X? I think it's a pretty good looking car, but let me know in the comment section just below that like button. Okay, so the interior. Let me start with the overall look, layout and feel, because wow, it is pretty incredible within here. You have soft touch materials absolutely everywhere. Even this padded leatherette down here is so nice, and you do not see this on competitors. It's small attention to detail like that really impresses me, especially when a manufacturer goes out of their way to make the interior a nice place to actually be, despite this being a pretty rugged off-roader at the end of the day. You have some pretty neat design touches as well. I love the split little glove box here, although they are quite little. This one is relatively small, and this one has like a, I don't know, I guess a cutout for a CD player or something in other markets, but it just means that there's not much storage space up there. But hey, at least you get something. I also love these, the little cup holders right next to the vents. It means that you essentially have heated or cooled vents depending on the temperature of the day. Love that. Even down to the switch gear, like the air conditioning controls, they just feel nice to press. And they have a great little digital display here. It's the perfect use of analog and digital. So what's not great about the interior? Well, there's hard scratchy plastics dotted around the interior, though I don't really care, because at the end of the day, this is an off-roader, and harder, scratchier materials, although they don't soak up as much road noise as soft touch materials, they are easier to clean, so I like that. The other thing is a bit of questionable fit and finish. Like up on the doors, there's this obvious gap between the two different panels. It's got a bit of a sharp edge to it too. Oh, and the other thing as well is the amount of just blank switches. This is the top spec model. Why are most switches blank? And while I'm admittedly nitpicking, you do have a bunch of piano black plastic here, which is not the worst I've seen. Mitsubishi do it a lot worse. But you know, it's a bit scratched, a bit smudgy, and there's definitely fingerprint marks all over it. So not a big fan of that. But otherwise, as I said, it's a really nice place to be, surprisingly so. Storage space is pretty good. As I said, you get this split glove box. You get a really nice feeling center armrest, though there isn't much storage space within it. It's surprisingly small. You get a couple of cup holders in the center, and you have a pretty large storage area for your phone. The issue is I've got an iPhone. That means that I can use wireless Apple CarPlay. No wireless Android Auto though. But there isn't a wireless charger, so my battery will just drain unless I plug it in anyway. So I keep it plugged in, kind of makes wireless Apple CarPlay redundant, and vice versa. Really, it should have a wireless charger. It's a bit old school that it doesn't. And this is a brand new car. And the door bins are a pretty massive size too, so plenty of storage options within here, which is good, but kind of expected. But now we move on to probably my favorite part of the interior, the seats. They are made of this beautiful leather. They are super, super comfortable. Automatically adjustable, of course, in this top spec trim. Are they for the passenger? Oh, yeah, they are. But they're heated as well, which is really nice on cold days to get into a car that has heated seats. Love that. And yeah, they've got a nice design to them. They're plenty supportive, lumbar support. I can't complain at all. Really like them. This steering wheel is a really nice steering wheel. It's super important that this is good because that's what you hold on to most of the time, I hope. I hope. But you have buttons to control absolutely everything, including your adaptive cruise control and your lane centering assist. Don't believe what other reviewers say. This system is very good. You'll find that a lot of reviewers hate this system because they like old school stuff and they're analog and they don't like digital systems controlling the car. It's safer, it's better, it's easier. I really like it. Up ahead of you is your instrument cluster, and it's decent. It isn't fully digital like we're going to be seeing on the new Ford Everest coming out sometime later this year or next. But on the left-hand side, you do have your tachometer. On the right-hand side, your speedometer. And then in the center is a little digital display where you can go through a few different menus, and it's okay. Definitely not the most color accurate or bright or high definition, but it does its job fine. Same as this infotainment display, which is actually very good. It's a 9-inch display, and even though it's not the most beautiful, doesn't have the best graphics or color accuracy or, again, high definition, it is, however, extremely practical. We have digital radio navigation, Android Auto, and wireless Apple CarPlay. Really nice. It is pretty responsive as well, and you can control a lot of the functions using these buttons down here, though I guess they're not the nicest buttons in the world, but again, nitpicking. Oh yeah, and I should say, if you want to charge your device, you have a USB port up front, a 12-volt socket, and an aux-in, which you don't really see in a lot of cars these days now, with everything going Bluetooth, but hey, you get it. Oh, little sunglass holder up here too. That's nice. I will say one of my biggest disappointments is that they don't have the live surround sound speakers in the roof like they do in the D-Max and the previous MU-X. I mean, the sound system is actually surprisingly good, but I wish it was up there, but it's not, so c'est la vie. Anyway, let's go check out the back seats. Okay, so the second row. Now, I'm 5'11". I have plenty of toe room, heaps of legroom, and heaps of headroom. I bet that's what you do as well when you test out cars, so don't laugh. The materials are actually quite nice. This is hard, scratchy plastic, but here is nice and soft leatherette. It feels really premium back here too. You still get these same beautiful leather seats. The really nice white stitching. I love that. And look, you get a little armrest here like you would expect, and there's like hidden cup holders within there too. So it's all very nice. Now, they clearly know that the demographic of buyers for this car have children, so they give you 2 USB ports here and like this, I guess, waterproofing cover. And at first you might scream and cry because you don't see any air vents. Instead, you have this storage area thing. Don't worry, they're up in the roof, and you have a fan speed controller here too. So yeah, very cool. No third zone climate control, but I mean, really, do you need it? Probably not. And of course, there is a third row, so I'm going to attempt to clamber back there now. Wish me luck. God, I look stunning. So to get into the back, it's actually pretty simple. Let me show you. So we pull on this latch here, the seat folds forward, really by itself. And then we can just simply clamber into the back, which is really easy. Yeah, I'm super impressed. Now, mind you, the seat in front of me has reclined a little bit. Unfortunately, can't slide the seats back and forward, which would have been really nice, but I guess they couldn't have gotten that mechanism in. But yeah, once you're in here, you can also recline these seats. Oh, it's like the 7 Series I reviewed. Actually, you couldn't even recline the back seats in that car. But yeah, you got your own air vents up in the roof. No USB ports back here, but you do get a couple of cup holders and storage areas. And yeah, at 5'11", I fit in back here pretty damn well. This isn't even like a back seat in a pinch. This is a pretty surprisingly good back seat. Well, I'm really impressed. Look at this. Hi. It just rolled up itself. Now this is limo driving. Okay, so I'm really impressed with how this thing is on the interior. It's a really nice place to be. But how does it go off-road? Well, I'm actually gonna be taking it tomorrow. So over to you, Fatty Matty at the farm. Haha. I should probably call it like Saucy Farm or something. The Farmo sauce. Not quite as elegant to get out. Oakley dokely. So here we are at the farm, and that was very rude, Matthew. But while we do some light off-roading here at the Sauce Farm, I'm just gonna call everything sauce from now on. A saucy farm. Oh, well, we're stuck. So, probably a good time to talk about the four-wheel drive mode. So we have 2 high, we have 4 high, and we have 4 low. So yes, this is of course a proper off-roader. There is a low range transfer case. Okay, so we have activated 4-wheel drive, and now let's see if we can get up this same portion of hill. Yeah, of course. So that was a bit of a steep hill. It's a bit of a wet day today. We are amongst my people, a lot of cows. So if you see some in the background, no, they're not paid actors. They are real cows. But of course, this is a farm and it's a bit of a wet day, as I said. So let's put the car into neutral, and then we'll put the car into 4 low, and all of a sudden we are in low range mode. So for the first time for the MU-X, we also get a lockable diff, which is really nice, and we'll use it in a moment when we come to a slippery area. And then the other cool feature is we have rough terrain mode. So if we press that, it kind of modulates the traction control system, does a really good job in slippery conditions too. So yeah, this thing straight out of the box is a very good off-roader. So some of the stats is 235 millimeters of ground clearance. The approach angle is 29.2 degrees. The departure angle is 26.4 degrees, and a ramp over angle of 23.1 degrees. So pretty good numbers. Nothing groundbreaking, but still pretty good. But if we take this thing on some challenging terrain, let's see how it performs. So we've got a hill here. It's gonna be a bit of an angle. I'm a little bit worried, but this is Matt Brand Cars. We give cars the 4-wheel drive sauce. This thing can get to some pretty gnarly angles before it actually does tip over. And I know this doesn't look like a big angle, but it definitely feels like a big angle for me, but it's taking it with absolute ease. Not too unexpected. This is relatively light off-roading, but that's what really most people with these are going to be doing, especially straight out of the factory. Oh my God. Oi, that was a bit scary, but hey, we made it. It's also surprisingly comfortable off-road too. That's kind of what I'm noticing as well. Often you'll get bounced around quite a bit, but the suspension does a really good job at not doing that. Now, this is a bit of a bump here too, so let's see how it goes. Oh. With ease, with absolute ease, it does it. Okay, let's do something a little bit more challenging now, which is going through some pretty large muddy areas. So let's give that a go. Okay, so this might not look too scary, but these puddles are actually quite deep and they're very muddy. This is a very muddy, wet area. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, especially for this car being on really road tires, but I'm going to lock the rear diff because that way it splits torque between the rear wheels, and that will give me the best chance of getting through here without getting bogged. And actually, I'm also going to test out the rough terrain option here too, because I want to make sure that I've got that going for me. Really? Okay, so this is going to be a bit scary. Yep. All right, we got through that. That wasn't too bad. Let's go through here though. Okay, we made it through. I was a bit worried there, but you know what? I actually did it pretty easily, and that's not easy. I almost got bogged there in the Land Rover Defender, so that's not too bad. And then we got some nice little bumps here too, so that'll be a good test of the suspension. But hey, it did a pretty damn good job. The other thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to bother these cows because they're kind of in my way, but I wanna try the hill descent control. Sorry cows, very sorry. They look quite similar. That's a bit of a sad realization. Okay, so to activate hill descent control, we press this button here. We have a light in the dashboard, and what it should do is keep us at a constant slow rate going down the hill. So let's try it. Take my foot off the accelerator. And yeah, it's doing a really good job. 3 kilometers an hour, and you can just hear the traction kind of breaking the wheels at each side just to keep us going slowly down this hill. So hey, that's actually pretty good. Again, all of this is actually quite impressive, because at the end of the day, this is a family SUV that's actually very capable straight from the dealership's lot. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. That's probably enough off-roading for now. Let's go back to how this thing drives. Okay, so back to how this thing drives now, and I want to get the boring stuff out of the way. Safety. This thing is really quite safe. It has scored the latest 5-star ANCAP safety rating, which is not easy to achieve. It means that there is an airbag in between, I just slapped my arm, in between the passenger and the driver. And not only that, you have every active safety system under the sun. And to be honest, if you're buying a family car, that is really important. So I'm glad to see it here. I would have kind of expected it, but it's really good to see nonetheless. All right, let's give it a bit more sauce. Come on, let's go. Excuse me. Actually, one of my favorite things about this is that you do get adaptive cruise control and really good lane centering assist. So this thing will essentially drive itself for you, and don't listen to what other reviewers have to say. It does it very well. So suspension and handling. Does this feel like a big dirty ute to drive? Well, for the most part, no. The underpinnings are the same as what's in the D-Max, but I think there must be some slight suspension tuning difference or something like that, because it really does ride just that bit better. You see, it is really, really smooth when you're just driving along the road, and it really does feel like you're wafting along. As a passenger, what do you think?
Feels fantastic.
It actually feels very good.
Yeah, I could fall asleep back here to the sound of your soothing voice.
I think
It's very loud, guys. Please help me.
I think that's rude sarcasm. You asshole! Speaking of road noise, it is actually quite quiet within here. That's something that surprised me as well. The one thing is that the engine is a bit noisy. It is one of the more agricultural kind of feeling engines in the class. It doesn't feel so refined, but I don't really care about that when I know that this engine is relatively bulletproof. And by the way, the engine has been slightly updated. They've kind of just improved areas of the engine to make it a little bit better than before. Really just make all the failure points of the previous engine like that less prone to failure. Handling is surprisingly good. Again, we're going through the twisties here, so we'll give it some twisty sauce, and yeah, I mean, it does a pretty damn good job for such a large SUV. One thing that surprised me a lot was the steering. It's quite heavy, which I really like. Gone is the hydraulic steering. You now get electric steering, but I mean, it's better for it. It might not feel as cool around the bends, but let me tell you, this thing does feel, well, really nice to drive, and you can have a surprising amount of fun on the back roads. Really, if I had to fault it, it's gonna come back to the engine power. It just doesn't feel very quick at all. Again, consistent, and that means it's pretty good for towing. Got a 3.5 ton towing capacity. It's very good for that. Oh, here's a bit more of a twisties. Let's do it. Actually, the car is a bit more balanced out with you sitting on the other side as well. Oh, let's, oh my God, yeah, felt that. Maybe went a bit too hard around these corners for such a big car. Might be forgetting how big it is. But it's surprisingly good. It's surprisingly fun. Oh, that's good. There was a bit of punch from the engine. Yeah, it's just that consistent pulling power that you find with these turbo diesels. So yeah, I mean, overall, I'm actually quite impressed with how this thing drives. I said it in the D-Max review and the BT50 review. It's just surprisingly good to drive, which you don't really expect for what, at the end of the day, is a pretty serious off-roader. And the fact that you can haul your whole family in it as well, 7 people, I mean, that's pretty good. The other thing to mention is fuel economy. So right now, over about 1,000 kilometers, I'm averaging 8.9 liters per 100 kilometers, which is decent. Definitely not the most fuel efficient engine out there, but I am a bit of a nuffy in the way I drive, so take it with a grain of salt. I think if you're doing a lot of highway kilometers, you can easily see less than 8 liters per 100 kilometers on this thing. So yeah, keep that in mind. So is the new Isuzu MU-X worth your hard-earned Australian drachme? Well, it's expensive. There's no getting away from that. I mean, once you apply that discounted rate for 64 grand for this top spec, to me, it's almost a no-brainer, especially with its competition. It does just feel a lot more modern in the way it drives to the Pajero Sport. And then the current Ford Everest is just feeling a bit long in the tooth as well. This feels like it's got nicer technology within it. The interior is next level. And the way it drives is just really consistent. So I think for now, absolutely, this is number one. This is the king for these ute-based SUVs. But I think one once the new Ford Everest comes out, that's going to give this car a lot of competition. So it'll be interesting to see how, you know, Isuzu kind of want to compete, because that's going to have all the latest technology, and this is going to start itself to feel maybe just a little bit old. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, just below that like button. What do you reckon about the Isuzu MU-X, especially the pricing situation? I almost find it quite funny. Is this a car that you own or you want to own? Let me know down in the comment section below. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'd love to have you around, and click over there to watch one of my other reviews. I highly recommend it. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next week.